and then going into self-care program. And she was able to get some of our ambassadors to join her on this process. So I hope you all are ready to talk about self-care. I'm ready to hear what our panelists have to say. And then I will turn it over, I think, to Brianna or the moderators. Brianna? Okay, there we go.
Good afternoon, everyone. I am Brianna Jackson, and I have been an intern mentee with Black Mental Wellness for about 2 years now, and it has been nothing short of a great experience. Many of the things that I've done has been around public speaking as well as program development, and I have taken a strong interest in program development. So this program will focus on self-care, as the title says. In the original program, we focused on self-love. I know the month of February is titled towards relationships and love and Valentine's Day, but there's no room for the single people apparently. So I just wanted to make sure that everybody in the room, everybody in the space felt loved, and more than that, to focus on our inner self-love. So without work, faith is completely dead. So we have to focus on self-care. And what does that truly mean? Throughout this program, we will have speakers and moderators talk a little bit about self-love. From there, we will open it up for a Q&A. And those that participated in the self-care challenge, thank you. The winners will be revealed after that. So again, thank you everyone for coming and making the space tonight. My peer who volunteered to be a part of the program is unfortunately not here tonight, so I will step in for Ms. Nala Williams. I would like one brave and courageous soul to come off mute and show their faces, and we will participate in a guided meditation. It won't be for long, I promise. Ms. Tashana Joseph.
Hi.
Hi. Can you pronounce your name for me?
It's Tashana.
Tashana, nice to meet you.
You as well.
I will also place this question in the chat. How are you doing, Ms. Tashana?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm doing well. Again, thank you for being so brave and coming out from mute and showing your beautiful face. I want you to get in a comfortable position. Relax your body. And close your eyes. I want you to first start by taking a deep breath in, holding it for a few seconds, and then releasing. Another breath in, and then releasing. I want you to imagine your favorite self-care practices. One of your favorite self-care practices. You may also speak. What is that self-care practice?
Going to the gym.
Whew. Need that one too. What do you see when you first walk into the gym?
I see the employees greeting me.
And how does that make you feel?
Joyous to be back in a comfortable setting.
How does that comfortableness feel within your body?
A sense of calming.
Are there any aromas that you can smell?
I don't know how to describe it, but that one specific gym smell of equipment.
And how does that make your body feel?
Relaxed and at ease.
You can take another breath in. And release. Thank you so much. We wanted to create a mindful moment for everyone to, one, center themselves and also release the world and focus in on this present moment. So without further ado, I hope that you all enjoy this program and have fun with it. Without further ado, I will direct it to our moderators, Dr. Robin Bibbs and Nari Fitzgerald.
Okay, thank you so much, Brianna. Welcome everyone to the program tonight. I'm so excited to be here. For me, I would just say that self-care and wellness is so important for me. Given that I have a very stressful and busy lifestyle between work and managing school and then trying to launch my own company. So I know the benefits of taking that time out for yourself. And I just want to invite everyone to, this is an opportunity for all of us to learn from each other. So I'm so excited to be here as one of the moderators. Ms. Brianna, I'll let you introduce yourself. Nala, I'm sorry.
Okay, hi everyone. So my name is Nari Fitzgerald. Again, welcome you guys. I'm so very excited for this event. Before you guys got on here, we were talking about how important and needed this is, especially now in these times. And I can say for me personally, self-care is something that I am like holding very near and dear to my heart, but also that I am really trying to emphasize the importance to other people. I myself am a mental health therapist, so it is important for me to take time for myself. Dealing with the problems and lives of other people, I have to make sure that I am making it a priority to do so for myself also. So I'm so excited that we get to, really talk about self-care, the misconceptions, and really the taboo around it. So I'm going to hand it back over to Dr. Robin so that way she can go ahead and get these questions for our panelists started.
Definitely. Okay, here we go, everyone. Our first question deals with what is self-care? And what are the common misconceptions that are associated with self-care? One of our panelists, if you could join in and give us your valued feedback.
I can kick us off. Danielle Davis, what is self-care? And then what are some misconceptions? That was the
Yes.
So I would describe her, when I think about self-care, I define self-care as really identifying and addressing like your needs, like what you as an individual need in service of being the best version of yourself. I think misconceptions, and I'll speak for myself, misconceptions that I think I originally had with self-care was like, oh, it's all just pampering type stuff, right? Like it means just going to get my manicure and pedicure. It means just going to get my massage. Those things are included, right? But sometimes it's also like saying no to the meeting that someone is asking me to go to, or like going to sleep a little bit, or like, so whatever the thing is that is helping me be my best is how I would now describe it. But I think initially some of those misconceptions were, just the more pampery, like the pampering kinds of things, my experience. And again, I think the pampering is included, but I think the other things are in that bucket too.
Okay, great. I have a question for you. One to add on to that. Do you think your misconception was associated with maybe with social media or maybe something you've seen on television? What do you think?
I'm going to date myself to say that my misconceptions came before there was social media. So, but what I will say is that, but that's a good question. I think some of it may have to do with gender, though. And I mean, maybe like our male on the panel, like maybe Richard can say something different. But like I think as a woman, when I thought of it, like there are certain things that those womanly, again, the manicure, the pedicure, the things that I associate with the gender, I think my identity as far as gender played a role in like how I identified what self-care was. And I don't know that maybe something different would be like for men,
Okay, all right. Could we hear from our male counterpart?
I feel as if that was like my segue introduction.
I was
So good
pulling you
evening.
in.
Tag your person in. Good evening, everyone. And for those that know I'm from the city I'm from, what up, though? My name is Richard Winfrey, born and raised in the city of Detroit. Far as self-care for me, I would define it as whatever serves me. It can be no shameless plug here. For me, I love different things such as that one sit on the front porch or patio, or quite frankly, I have a certain affiliation for just loving gym shoes. It's not that I buy them all because, you know, my wife would beat me down, but most importantly, whether it's browsing, looking at rare sneakers that maybe Jordan or Allen Iverson wore during the game when they actually played in their prime, that sort of thing literally brings me peace of mind and joy. I think one of the biggest misconceptions is that, especially being a male, is that, and I'm gonna just come out and say it, is that self-care, and this came from elders too, self-care and soft embraces and things of that nature, that's for sissies, that's for punks, that's for girls. You know, guys don't get manicures and pedicures. They don't go get massages. I got a massage Monday and it was absolutely everything I needed to go through my Tuesday. So it literally put me in a good frame of mind, got me ready for the gym on Tuesday, and it put me in my best frame of mind. So that's just a little I have to say about that.
All right, thank you.
And so I just want to add, I think it's really important that you guys kind of threw in their gender, because the fact is that unconsciously we kind of been raised to believe that, like you said, like women, you know, getting your hair and your nails done, like that's, you know, our form of self-care, right? Or what we thought was self-care, but that's only for the girls. And then so the guys, they kind of get forgotten about. So it's like, what is their form of self-care? So it's really important that, you know, we talk about it, because, you know, at the end of the day, self-care has to happen. So, you know, there is something that the guys need to partake in. So, you know, this is, again, us starting that conversation. So next question, what do you wish that you knew earlier on about self-care that you would tell your younger self? Yes, whomever, take it away.
Richard, were you about to say something?
I was, but I realized I'm like one of the only men here, so I want to give deference to the women first before I speak. So go ahead.
All right. I'm also conscious that I started the first time, so I want to make room. What I wish I knew as my younger self was that self-care is not something that you earn. Like after I do this thing, then I can go do the self-care, right? Like that just by my mere existence, that I deserve to take care of myself, right? Like I think, especially growing up, there are certain things that you get as a reward for something else. And like now as an adult, it's like, after I'm on my grind, then I can go get the massage. And it's like, yeah, I can grind, but like also I deserve the massage even if I don't get the project done. So I think there's something about the reward system that is of value when we're children, because it teaches us different kinds of things. But I think that sometimes translates into how we interpret when we get the reward, like the self-care is sometimes a reward. So I guess the succinct way of saying that is, I think what I would wish my younger self, knew earlier on is that self-care is not a reward for doing something right. Self-care is merely you are a human on this earth who is like living life and living through all of the things that we're living through. And like, just by that, you deserve to take care of yourself. You don't have to do anything to earn it.
Can I say something? Okay, so I would like to say that I wish I would have known the importance of self-care, because at this stage in my life, I don't know how to give myself self-care. I'm always doing for other people. And then there's always that guilt, when I try to do something for myself, I feel guilty sometimes because, I'm taken away from something that's in my normal routine to do something for myself. And that's counterproductive, because even though it's supposed to be self-care, is not doing what it's supposed to be doing. So if I would have known that or been raised to like understand the importance of it, I think I would be able to implement it in my life a little bit better.
I would like to say ma'am, how do you pronounce your name?
Shakola.
Shakola. I would just like to say, thank you for giving that comment. And I would like to also add, anything that you do, even if it's just for 20 minutes for yourself, celebrate it. Just be happy that you took, even if it's just 20 minutes to just sit and just relax, or sit and drink your favorite, cool beverage of water or lemon with lime, whatever it is, just celebrate it. Because when you do it for 20 minutes, then you can extend it out to 30 minutes, and then you can extend it out to 40 minutes. And then next thing you know, hey, you're going on a trip and you're having yourself a spa day. And you never thought you could. So definitely I commend you and celebrate you for just start out with 20 minutes and go from there.
I appreciate that.
Yes, absolutely. And another thing I just wanted to hit on too is that we think that self-care is actually us actually going out and doing some stuff. Sometimes self-care is just us relaxing. Sometimes it's just us recharging our battery and doing nothing, right? You can't go out and, just run yourself, dry and expect that you can get up and go do it again the next day. You have to recharge yourself. So sometimes just taking that time for yourself to say, no, I'm not going to do anything today but rest. And that is self-care. So yes, and I think we have a hand from Hannah. Hannah, was there something you wanted to add?
Yeah, thank you. I do apologize for not having my video on. I did just get out of work right before the meeting, but my younger self, I wish I could have known that it's okay to want nice things. So I won't give the backstory, but I grew up in a large family and we did a lot to make it. So that later turned into doing nice things for yourself. You using it on better, or be grateful for what you have. Like right now, be content with where you are and wanting more, because it's always someone has less or someone is doing worse. So just wanting more should not cause me. I still do the guilt sometimes today. I push past it. Like it's okay for me to want something that costs a little extra. There be guilt associated with wanting more. So I just wish my younger self had really grasped that concept.
Yes, thank you so much for sharing that, Hannah. We greatly appreciate it. And then I wanted to see our panelists, Mr. Richard, was there something you wanted to add to that? Because you was here for a second. So I just wanted to make sure there was nothing you wanted to add before we moved on to the next question.
So I probably could say, I want to respond to the comment about feeding her. I think it's Denisha. I want to make sure I got that right. Okay, perfect. About feeding self-care. I love this shirt. I actually designed this shirt. Thank goodness I was able to. It's part of a whole podcast line. I won't plug that right now because that's not what we're talking about. But I literally was at DXL yesterday. This goes back to the piece about not being frugal in terms of paying for your own self-care. I bought some clothes I thought I needed a couple weeks ago. Didn't fit, bought it too big, thought I was bigger than I really was. Didn't give myself the credit of going to the gym and going crazy. Anyway, I returned the shirt. And so I had earned a certificate for like $15, and obviously the credit of, I will, and also the credit of, taking the stuff back. And so one of the shirts I actually bought, one of my favorite Looney Tunes characters is Marvin the Martian. And it literally read, "Give me my space." Double entendre, obviously, but it says so much about, when it comes to self-care. Don't be afraid to tell people to give you your space, because at the end of the day, if it's in your own backyard, if it's at the Riverwalk, if you live in the city of Detroit, or a place where there's bodies of water, if it's simply capturing the space that is for you, and not being shameful of it. Like for the first time since we got our house, I was literally able to last weekend sit on my back porch and actually celebrate via the victory cigar that I set out with take in the moment we purchased a home. And that was 2 years ago. I said, you know what? I'm not waiting for the perfect moment anymore. We're not doing that. We're sitting in moments, we're relishing in moments, and we are practicing self-care up here. So yeah, don't be ashamed of no matter what every family or friend or whoever says about, well, not right now. Is that? It's like, no, it's what I want, and it's right now. That's it.
Yes, prioritize yourself. Thank you for that. And if y'all didn't know, if you didn't see it already, he definitely, his podcast was added to the chat. So y'all go ahead and make sure y'all check him out because his podcast is dope and he's doing a lot of dope things. So yeah, make sure you guys check that out. So Dr. Robin, you got the next question?
Yes, ma'am, I do. Our next question is, how do you balance and prioritize self-care with real demands of work, school, and et cetera, so that you're not ignoring your other responsibilities? So I'll start off, Mr. Richard. We'll start off with you.
You said outside of me?
What did you say? No, I'll read the question again. It says, how do you balance and prioritize self-care with the real demands of work, school, or whatever other outside obligations you have so that you are not ignoring your other responsibilities?
So what I will say is that when I first started my career, I was very, very hungry to get more. I was like, I take on all the projects, they'll think I'm the man. You know, all this toxic masculinity. I got to a space where one of my immediate past job, I had my plate more full than some of us take on Thanksgiving Day. And that was a no-go. In fact, by the time I started to try to tell people no, it was like, yeah, right, you're joking. And I got to the point where I didn't want that job anymore. So I took my new job. I was extremely intentional about not requesting all the things to do, letting people know I have space to take on more, but with all due respect, I want to focus on this thing and make sure I'm doing it extremely well. Mm-hmm. If you see something in me that shows I can do more, great, but I will tell you, it's either going to be A or B by Friday. It is not going to be both. You may be able to get both by Friday, but don't count on it. And typically people will be scared to tell that to the supervisors and bosses. Mm-hmm. But if you don't speak up for yourself, then people will just walk all over you. Mm-hmm. So that goes to work. Quite honestly, that goes with family and even within marriage. It's like, hey, I can get all these things done, but you're only going to get a perfect A or a perfect B. If you get both, it's going to be sloppy. And so I think that by practicing that more and giving myself from the beginning of shift until, quite frankly, where I'm not doing no more work, I think when people understand those boundaries that you set up for yourself, it speaks volumes to how people treat you at work, but also how people treat you outside of work. They won't blow your phone up like right now at 7:25 p.m. Eastern Standard Time.
Okay, all right. Thank you for that, because I would agree with you. I think it's so important that part of our self-care and wellness is being able to establish those boundaries. And it's important that your colleagues and your family members respect that, because I know sometimes family members may be the ones that are the most challenging with understanding when you say no, there's a reason why you're saying no, because just like you mentioned, you can get a sloppy A or you can get a perfect A, but it's up to you, but I can't do both. So I think it's so important that you stress that you have to create those boundaries and you have to know what is within your capacity and what you're able to do. So thank you so much for that comment. Now to our next, Miss Danielle, I will defer to you.
Yeah, I think I won't add a whole lot more because I feel like some of the things that were said kind of captures the two things that I would say. But I think from a practical standpoint, there are two. One is something that you kind of alluded to earlier, Dr. Robin, around when you mentioned like if you have 20 minutes first, then it turns into this and it turns into that, is legit I legit look at my calendar. And when I'm coaching folks, I'd like talk about like literally look at your calendar. If lunch is the thing that you struggle with, like finding time for yourself to do, like block out the time on your calendar. If you want to go for a walk every day, right? Like put it on your calendar the same way that you would put your meeting with whoever, right? But like looking for like small pockets on the calendar, whether it's the 20 minutes, maybe then eventually you get to the hour, then you just hold off a day, you know? So I think practically speaking, it's that. And then I would agree with Richard on like the element of prioritizing, right? Like prioritizing what's important. And I think there's also times where if you're in there are times where like, you know, you can prioritize and just make the decision yourself. There may be times where that's not as easy in a workplace setting because you're getting your, you know, like you're getting your task from somewhere else, right? Like, so your boss is asking a thing or your supervisor is asking a thing. But to the example that Richard is saying, right? Like if you know that all these things are not all things to do, then like bringing that person into the prioritization, right? Like, so you gave me this, this, and this, right? Like I can only do one or two things. How would you suggest that I like, you know, like what would you suggest that I prioritize so that you're still, you know, and this is a practice that I've done, that I'm still choosing to create time for myself, but I'm also being realistic with like my paycheck is coming from a person who is telling, you know, like how do I balance the, I know I need this thing, but also I can't do all the things. So I would like, yeah, the prioritization and bringing folks in to, you know, kind of help you in that journey when you're having to make that decision.
Thank you for that. And I see that we have a question. We have two of our participants who have their hands raised. Could I have Miss Hannah come off of mute and share what her question or comment is for the panel?
Miss Yasmin had her hand raised before me.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry about that. So Miss Yasmin, my bad. I apologize. Miss Yasmin, can you go ahead and come off of mute and share what your question or comment is to the panel?
Sure. Can you guys hear me?
Yes.
Okay. It's more of a comment than a question because I'm a parent to 3 children on the spectrum, and I'm a single parent at that. So like I have and still kind of struggle with a hard time with like prioritizing self-care. And because like my day-to-day is so demanding, like 24 hours, 7 days a week. So what I'm learning for myself is that asking for help, and it's just like as a parent, it's hard to ask for help. And then it's also like, you know, society thinks that, oh, you know, you're the strong one and you have to do all these things. And you know, they clap for that. And I'm like, no, I'm not a robot, you know, like and like going back to what was said about boundaries and setting those boundaries with like, listen, I'm going to send this paperwork when I'm ready. I'm going to do this when I'm ready because like I need to rest or take a nap or, you know, check in with myself. Right. Because like I don't get that time to regroup, but trying to prioritize and not, you know, forget about my needs, because if mom is not doing well, then the kids are not doing well. Right. So I think it's I'm just learning how to prioritize my needs so my household can be cohesive, and also community is important, especially like, you know, I don't have a lot of family, so like I like community, like whoever your chosen family is or somebody that, you know, that you trust can like watch your kids or even just give you some encouragement, because sometimes the days be long and you like, you know, you life be life and all right. But like community is so important when it comes to the day-to-day, and also prioritizing your self-care when you don't have that time to yourself. So that's all I wanted to say, like if anyone wanted to add to that.
All right. Thank you, Miss Yasmin. I think that's so important what you said, because as a parent, I understand, some of the students that I work with are on the spectrum. And so I know this, what you are talking about, and having and interacting with parents, that is so important that you do create that time and you do build on community and you do rely on those family members or friends who are within your community that you can rely on. Because again, like you said, if something happens to you, you know, the whole show goes down. So it's like, you can't pour from a cup that is empty. So always take that time to replenish your cup. Okay, thank you. Ms. Hannah, do you have a comment?
Yes, ma'am, I do. So I just wanted to say that one of my affirmations to myself is sort of well, anyway, it's give yourself permission to make decisions. And that's something I literally have it like on my lock screen to see every day, because as far as maintaining self-care, between work-life balance, what I used to find myself doing was, if I go to the managers or whoever is over me, supervisor, I family is very important to me. So let's say I have a family event, and it's just the way I would approach them is, I have this family event to go to this weekend, if that's okay, or I want to stay home and do X, Y, and Z, if that's okay. I gave them way too much permission and say so over what I wanted to or needed to prioritize for my own self-care, self-health. So that's just one thing that I've learned to not do, to be, let your yay be yay and your nay be nay. It's I'm going home to see family, you know, cut off the, if that's okay, cut off the, how else you may say it, because it just gives them way too much, other people way too much power over what you can control as far as your self-health. But that was all.
Okay, thank you for that. Thank
Love
you.
that.
We have another question. Miss Brianna, if you would come off mute, please, and share your question, please, or comment.
Yes. I wanted to respond to Yasmin. I work as a behavioral technician, and I help families who children have been diagnosed on the spectrum. And if anybody needs a break, it is y'all. I don't understand how you go through life day to day, and I can't sit there from 3 to 5 hours with them, and I'm like, oh my gosh, this is so much. It's a lot already having children. Though I don't have any children, I've been around children, and that's a lot. But to have them on the spectrum as well, and being able to be gentle and kind and understanding of them, is a lot. And I'm saying this to say that please get your rest. The yesterday when I was with my client, I had to leave early to make an appointment, and mom knocked out on the bed. I'm talking slouched over. And at that moment, I'm like, I really truthfully do not want to wake her, because I know as a police officer, as a mom, being involved in your community and having a child, that is a lot on you. So I let her rest. I set my expectations with my client, and I text her like, I wanted you to rest. I'm sorry that I had to leave him there, but listen, take your time, get your rest. And that's all.
Yes.
Thank you for
Yes,
that.
I love that. And I want to just say I appreciate both Hannah and Yasmin for your transparency, because again, this is a conversation that we definitely need to have. And there was one thing I wanted to kind of say, because Yasmin, you said it, and you said, you know, I have to do check-ins with myself. And I was like, yes, check-ins, because many times we don't check in with ourselves. Like we feel like we need something or something may be off, but we don't know what it is because we're not doing that self-reflection to really understand what we need in that moment. And I actually want to reflect on the post that was posted today on the Black Mental Wellness page, because it was a repost of a tweet which said, I just realized I need to ask myself this question daily. What do I need today? And not just what do I need to do today? For me to be a priority on my own list, I must first place myself there. It's not just a nice to have, it's a need to have. And I wanted to put that out there because when I read it, I was like, yes, like this is so true. And I feel like we need to be more cognizant, because in life, we're so busy worrying about school, work, we're worried about our families, just all of these different things. And we're not sitting here worrying about the one person who we need to be worried about most, ourselves. And so again, as Dr. Robin said, you cannot pour from an empty cup. So yes, you know, put yourself on the top of your priority list. People think that self-care is selfish. It is not. It's just selfish. You have to do things for yourself in order to get to other people. So I wanted to kind of just put that out there. I see we have another hand from Miss Tracy. Sorry, I didn't mean to take over, but.
No worries, you're fine.
Yes, ma'am. Great evening to everyone. I wanted to just kind of add in to the mom who said that her children are on the spectrum. I have a sorority sister who has a child on the spectrum as well. And one of the things that I found fascinating about her and on their journey is that she connected with another tribe of moms who also had children who were on the spectrum. And what they did was basically had like a babysitting type group, but you know, where each mom would take some time out throughout the week to just get away, decompress, rejuvenate herself, and then get back. And each of the moms, I think it's like 5 or 6 moms, and they all were able to do that to help each other during those times where there were high stress levels in their lives and dealing with the children. So that may be an option for her too, to be able to reach out to some of the other moms in her community. Just wanted to share that. Thanks.
Okay, great idea. Thank you, Ms. Tracy. Mr. Richard, you have a comment?
I have a comment from the space of being the goddad. So I do not have my own kids, but I do know the importance of ecosystems. One of the biggest things I remember when one of our best friends, they were fresh from having their child, they were trying to figure it out, sleep was all off, it was crazy. And I remember we went over there literally, I think my wife cooked, I helped with some other house chores like washing clothes, etc. Black people asking for help is so cliche, and I don't know why, because probably it's the whole strong black woman, strong black man mantra, if you will. But we're so much more efficient when we ask for help and get that help from our ecosystems, because just those instances of stepping in and help meal prep, stepping in to help cook, getting some things done around the house, that can be the difference of the type of parent that you need to be for your young one. Because I get that it's all on you, but it doesn't 100% always have to be all on you. And while we think we know what's best for our child, things of that nature, for our niece, for our nephews, for our godkids, or whoever, sometimes getting that space for you can help you provide that better. And so I would hope that you aren't getting away from the simple things of, hey, this person I really trust in my corner, help. And it is okay to ask for that. Because me being a godfather myself, I don't mind. I mean, that's why you asked me to be a godfather. So that's what I'm gonna do, is I'm gonna step in and be a second father, if you will.
Thank you so much for that. And I would agree with what you said about the key point of what you said is you have to have that trust with that person. And I think when you have that trusting relationship, you are able to then reach out and say, I do need help. I think that's a stereotype sometimes or a stigma within the Black community that you see even in social media and portrayed in movies that, oh, we're the strong Black women. Okay, I'm a strong Black woman, but I'm a strong Black woman that needs some help. So when I say I need help, I need help. And it takes a village. It is a village that will help come through and help us get through the trials and tribulations that we have, help us when we need help. But we have to be willing, again, to open that door and ask for it. So thank you so much for that comment, Mr. Richard.
Yes, so powerful. I love it. Okay. Next question. How has your idea of self-care evolved over time, and what brought on that evolution? Okay. Well, I'll just say for me, and I think we already kind of touched on it, but personally, for me, when I thought of self-care, I thought of, the pampering. I thought if I got to get my nails done, I got to get my hair done, just the superficial things. And it wasn't until I got into mental health that I realized that self-care was a lot more than that. It's the things that allow you to take care of yourself in the physical, the emotional, the spiritual aspects of yourself, even the social. And again, I think that we get so caught up on the, okay, I need to go and, work out. And that's still self-care, but I think we're so just hell-bent on those things that we forget about, again, the resting or just taking time for ourselves, sleeping. The things that we kind of write off are the things that tend to be self-care also. So that's just my personal. So I'll go ahead and whoever wants to answer next. Okay, so it looks like we have a hand, and I'm gonna try to say your name. Please correct me if I'm wrong. I have Shatangela. Is it right? I said it right? Okay.
Yes, you did. Thank you. My ideal of self-care changed when I started going to therapy. Even though I was already a therapist in the mental health field, I still wasn't able to really grasp what the idea of self-care was more so getting my hair done, getting my nails done. But then when I started therapy, that's when my idea of self-care changed. Like learning how boundaries was a big part of my self-care, saying no, being able to unapologetically say that I don't have the mental capacity to listen to different things coming up. I just don't have the bandwidth for that. So I think that going to therapy really shifted my perspective on what self-care really was for me.
Yes, and I absolutely love that, because a lot of times, like you, it's not until people go to therapy. So if y'all aren't in therapy, this is y'all, I'm urging y'all, please get into therapy, because that in itself is self-care, and you'll be surprised at just all the things that are kind of revealed in therapy. And again, that is continuous self-care. That's you putting in the work in for yourself to become better, to be better for not only yourself, but for other people. So yes, I definitely recommend therapy for everybody. Thank you so much for that. We have another hand, Miss Yasmin.
I think for me, for self-care, how I knew about it, I thought it was like I felt guilty or I shouldn't be doing that, because I feel like as we were taught as children, as oh, that's a reward, or oh no, you can't do that. So for a long time I felt guilty about self-care. But then also my grief journey, when I lost my loved one, I started getting into YouTube and stuff like that, and seeing how people related to my journey, and also just what they do for self-care, realistically, not all before the influencers and all that stuff. But but it just felt nice, oh, somebody understands, what I went through, and it's okay to do things for yourself, and it's okay to, mentally, tap in and be like, yo, let's check in what you need. And I actually did that today. I did a meditation after my workout, and I just kind of felt like I was going back into my old habits, and I was like, what are you doing? I know, saying to myself, I know it's easier to go back into those habits, but be gentle with yourself, because I felt like I have this tough exterior, and just had to be tough all the time, because I just, again, we got to be strong, we got to be tough, we got to be that, but not being gentle with myself, not having the softness to be relax. You're entitled to feel. Your feelings are valid. And once I started, it clicked, and it just was up from there. I prioritized my 3 things. I just started it. I do my 3 things each day. Even if it's movement, or even if it's just taking a nap. I let the kids know, look, mommy taking a nap, y'all gonna have some screen time, y'all go do your thing. So just the realization of self, like yourself, and not, I would say unlearning that the things that you learned as a child or whatever, unlearning that and relearning, like it's okay to take care of yourself, not out of rewarding yourself or things like that, because your body needs it, your mind needs it, your spirit needs it. So just being on this, like my grief journey, and like seeing, like watching, like, because like back then YouTube videos were like my comfort and all that stuff. So that like kind of helped me a lot. And then just, yeah. So I'm trying to hold back tears, but thank y'all for listening.
Yes, no, thank you. Again, like that was like you are hitting it like spot on, right? Like being compassionate with self. Like we get so caught up in just the world and the ideals and the norms and just responsibilities that are put on us. And again, we're not compassionate with ourselves. We're not, again, like you said, like kind of doing those check-ins to obtain that self-awareness. Like, okay, wait, what am I doing? This is not like me. This is not like the person I'm becoming. Hold on, let's rewind and figure this out, right? Because again, that is a form of self-care. And so I'm glad that you said that, because again, anything that you are doing to better yourself and break those generational curses or the things that are not necessarily becoming of the person that you want to be, it's important that you call yourself out on it and you're working to change it. So I'm glad that you said that. Thank you. Richard.
Before I make this statement, I just like to call out that one of the things that I think society needs to do a better job of is having our men show up to these spaces. I think I'm literally the only male, unless I'm wrong by names, only male in this whole meeting. That to me kind of tells the story. We as Black men don't really want to talk about it. For me, I think that self-care really changed for me. I'll say it's kind of the same interval, but around the time that I really got into my whole natural lock journey, it was coming up upon 1 year. It was March of 2020. Probably know exactly where you were in March of 2020. It was realizing, oh, this stuff's actually growing and we can't go outside. So I might as well grow the rest of it out and just fully go into this lock journey. It was also the time we were told we don't want to see y'all outside because people are dying every single day because of this Panasonic TV situation outside called coronavirus. There's also the racial pandemic that we really got into with rest in peace to George Floyd or Breonna Taylor or Ahmaud Arbery, things of that nature. For me, I was just had so much going on, I could not escape. I couldn't go outside. I couldn't escape to work. I had to stay in the house. I had to figure it out. And at that time, in the midst of growing my locks out, in the midst of all these things, I found my therapist that same couple month interval and time frame. And he helped me unpack a lot of different things. One of those being, as long as you don't put yourself in debt, Richard, it is okay to buy the shoes. It is fine. It's part of you, what you do. It's okay. It's fine. One, it's okay to do your self check-ins, to ask yourself and get to the bottom of the root cause, if you will, why you're feeling exactly how you're feeling. Is it something personal that you did? Is it absorption of too much energy or news media? Is it that you're on your phone too much and you got news alerts coming at you all types of crazy? Is it another rest in peace Kobe Bryant post? Like, what is it that's really getting on your nerves? And then ultimately choosing your own happiness. And so therapy really opened up a lot of different things about how to deal with grief during that time, dealing with alcohol addiction with family members during that time. And I'm not going to slap your hand and tell you to run the therapy, but I can honestly attest to the fact that I think about me pre-2020, and I think about me right now as I currently am in this space. And if you believe in the higher power like me, then thank God for therapy, because I do not know where I would be. And there's so many people that can't speak to that right now because they aren't able to speak. So big up to therapy, man.
Yes, thank you for that. And you're not gonna slap them on the wrist, but I am. Go to therapy, you guys. Like personally, like before I even got into mental health, like I was kind of like, obviously we're not even gonna get into the stigma around mental health. That's a whole nother thing, right? We'll be here for days. But I was not here for therapy. But again, therapy is a form of self-care. There's so much that you can learn, so much that you can just explore about yourself and heal through therapy. So I'm gonna slap y'all on the wrist. Go to therapy, y'all. Everybody needs a therapist. Therapists need therapists. Everybody. Okay, and so I think we're at our next question, Dr. Robin.
Okay, yes, ma'am. So the next question that we have is, what role do you think identity plays in our relationship to self-care in terms of gender, race, role in families, and etc.? So let me start off with Miss Danielle, if you could comment for that or start us off.
Yeah, I mean, I know we talked about some of the gender pieces, right? But I think the conversation has been leading us into other, like Yasmin, like talking about the role of a parent, right? Like, and how like the mother may feel less able to go into like that role of self-care, right? Like, I think the different responsibilities based on what our role is in our family, what role we play in who we are in our family, and then how we carry that, right? And I think for me, even when I think specifically about family relationships, which then connects back to some of the stuff that we were talking about around the boundaries, is figuring out how to play a role in, especially when you get into family, right? We love our family, we want to support our family, we want them to win, like there can sometimes be a conflict because like these are our people, right? So we love them and we don't want to like feel like we are walking away, but like we don't have the capacity all the time. So like, what are the ways that like I can support you from a distance, right? Like maybe I can't do the thing, but maybe I can connect you with a resource to help you figure out how to do the thing, right? Like maybe I can't give you the money, but maybe I can help you get the job, like, so what are the ways that we can listen and like not totally, like not be unrealistic about the fact that we care about the relationship, but also not take on a burden that is not ours to take on, right? Like, because at the end of the day, grown people got to be grown, and we can't do all the things for all the people. So I feel like the navigating it is tricky, and depending on family roles, and like, of course, generational trauma plays a role in this for us as me as a Black person in this world, as a descendant of slaves, which I would imagine is a lot of our stories on this call, right? Like that generational trauma then feeds into how we experience and like how we show up in like what we think we are worthy of, right? Like what we are wired to just keep on going. We can take it, we can make it happen, right? Like, and then we see our parents do that, and then we do that, right? Like, and then our kids do that, and like we continue to keep that going. So yeah, those are some of the things that to me come up when I think about how it shows up in family, how it shows up in relationships, and then of course the gender pieces, where it relates to parents, all of that. And then I think similar, the last thing I'll say is even to kind of one of the comments in the chat around when we think about parenting, and then Richard brought up, we were talking about the ecosystem, right? Like of like, how do we bring the people, like how do we bring our family in, right? Like to help them know like what we need and how we need it and all of that kind of stuff. To me, it goes back to communication, like relationship building our communication. To me, that is a form of self-care, like investing in the relationships and communicating and saying what we need and how we need it. Speaking up in that way, to me, is self-care, right? Like you're building the community that you have, and then you're also advocating for yourself in whatever you need in that relationship.
Thank you, Danielle. I would agree. Advocacy is probably one of the key components, because if you have to be willing to communicate, and if you are not a good communicator, you're going to have your boundaries stepped over. You're going to get stressed out because no one knows. It's like I always tell some of my students that I coach, I'm not a mind reader. I don't know. If you don't communicate, I'm not going to know what's going on. So I think that's one of the biggest things that we have to do as a group, we have to be able to communicate when something is not good. You know, if we go to a restaurant and the food's not good, we're real quick to say something, but we can't say something to Auntie May when she says something to us. So it's like, those are the things that we have really got to work on our communication skills. You're not trying to say anything to try to hurt anyone's feelings, but you're saying it in a way where they clearly understand, okay, she's drawn that line in the sand, or he's drawn that line in the sand, and okay, I understand what they're talking about. Thank you, Ms. Danielle. Mr. Richard?
Was Yasmin before me? I want to make sure.
I'm sorry, Miss Yasmin, do you have a question?
Oh, no, I forgot to put my hand down. Sorry, y'all.
That's okay, it's all good, thank you.
I just wanted to make sure, but you also made a comment in this chat, and this is actually funny because one of the things I do for self-care as well is I listen to other podcasts, just for the sole enjoyment of listening, not to come up with content for myself. Sometimes I gotta have my own escape from even making the podcast, which is also therapy. Anyway, I was listening today to one called Getting Grown. Some of you all may have heard of it. And they talked about, ultimately one of the people was talking about grieving, but also about how the family basically ain't family. You know, it's hard to sometimes rely on certain family members that, and you guys may remember a time where you thought your parents was doing the thing. They were putting food on the table. They were getting you back and forth to school. You never went without certain things. But also it was that one phrase when you drove past the Foot Locker and you was like, I want some shoes. And it was like, do you got shoe money? All right, I ain't got that. I'm like 10, cool. Or if you drive past the McDonald's and you like, ooh, that Big Mac sound, I think I'm ready to eat a Big Mac in my life. And like, you got McDonald's money. And it's like, come on, like, what's that about? But later on, I realized that, in particular to my case, that my parents were hiding some demons that they never addressed. They were hiding the fact that they were spending their money on certain things, such as, quite frankly, alcohol and drug addiction. They were throwing that money away. That's why Richard couldn't get those shoes. That's why we couldn't stop at McDonald's. There's some aunties and uncles right now that are currently dealing with things that they don't want to talk to you about because it's going to make them look weak to you. And they the matriarch or patriarch of the family. The family ain't family how it's supposed to be because they scared to go to the therapy and they scared to address their things. But I'm never really fearful of saying, hey, do you need to talk about it? What is it? Like, I don't need the whole story. What's bothering you right now? Just kind of be in that space. I can't solve all the issues for you. So I think on the other questions about finding a therapist, if you will. I know some good ones. I know mine. I know some other great resources that I've directed other people to, such as Psychology Today, simply Googling Black therapists, and ultimately just trying to find a therapist that's right for you. But sometimes people just simply need to hear, you need to go talk to somebody because that whole blurt out or that whole episode you just had, that ain't healthy. That ain't right.
Yeah, thank you.
Yes. Okay. Well, yeah, thank you for that. And one thing you said, Richard, you know, and I think also too, I guess being, how can I say this? Being that person, like you said, to tell somebody like, look, maybe you should talk to somebody. That's also a form of self-care. Why? Because being that person for your friends, right? It helps them to be that person for you and vice versa, right? So it's important for us. Obviously, you want to be around people who are uplifting you. And so I think that in order to do that, you know, we have to make sure that we're right within ourselves, but then also too, you want to make sure that you're looking out for your friends and their best interests, because if they can't pour into you, then, you know, how are we going to pour back into one another? And so, yeah, sometimes being that person and be like, okay, you know what? I see that you're going through a lot. You need to go take a break. I got it, right? Or you know what? I know somebody that can help you with this. So how about we go do that? So sometimes, you know, you have to do that for other people because other people don't realize that they may need to go practice some self-care and they need a break. So being that for other people is definitely necessary. But with that being said, We are going to take 1 to 2 questions from the audience. And then from there, we will reveal the winners for the self-care challenge. And any further questions that anyone has, it can be directed to the Black Mental Wellness email address, which is blackmentalwellness@gmail.com. So we're going to open up the floor to 1 or 2 questions, and then we'll go from there. Does anyone have any questions at all? It could be directed towards our panelists, just questions in general. Anyone, anything? No, y'all don't have any questions?
Question. Oh,
yes, okay.
sorry. I had a question for the panelists and their thoughts. So I was on the Twitter space earlier, and I don't want to mess up Dr. Nicole's name. K-Mac, is that how you pronounce her last name?
Yes.
Yes. Okay. And I wanted to know from you and also the panelists what your thoughts are when we talk about self-care and generational trauma that's passed down. I had a thought that the same way we pass down, generational trauma, we've also passed down kind of this fear around mental health, considering how mental health, how Black people were treated from a white supremacist standpoint, being locked up for vagrancy or homelessness or whatever other, notion was created. But how do you feel about the fact that, or what are your thoughts about that same, in a comparison? I'm trying to word it so it makes sense. The comparison of like generational trauma being passed down, those fears of self-care and around mental health, I feel like have also been passed down because of fear of, maybe being locked up. Those were the stories that families told. And how do we get past that? Like, how do we retell those stories so that we're not continuing to pass down that fear of taking care of ourselves or going to therapy or recognizing that we have a mental illness? I hope that makes sense.
I'll just jump in. So thank you for supporting all day. Okay.
Absolutely. I love you guys. I met Dr. Busby about 2 years ago, and I love her to death. I love what you guys do. So however I can support, I will definitely do that.
Thank you so much. You just made the night. I mean, you bring up a lot of good points, and I'll just say this. I don't know, y'all know sometimes I could be a little extreme, but I don't think we can talk about mental health without talking about the context through which mental health started in the US, how it was weaponized, and what it meant for Black people. It wasn't safe to express, feelings or to be depressed or have anxiety or trauma, to struggle with addiction. It wasn't safe. And we have to think about the implications, even during the enslavement of Black people, of like, what would have had been to say, no, I'm sad today. So even from, our journey here, part of it was that you had to, what did you do with those feelings? You had to push them down. You couldn't acknowledge them. You had to keep on going. It was all about surviving. And so when you do that generation after generation after generation, that's the lesson. I don't have time to deal with your feelings because I have to teach you how to survive. We got to get through. If you do this, they're going to respond this way. They're going to act this way. They're going to eat you alive. It's oftentimes why in Black communities, when we think about little boys or if they cry, people are like, oh, you can't be soft, because it's not to say that the little boy can't express his feelings, but they're already attaching that to what is this going to mean for his life? And so we have to think that it hasn't been safe for Black people to feel their emotions. So how the heck are we going to therapy? I don't even know what I'm feeling. And then on top of that, we think about the way that therapy was based off of white people. It wasn't based off of us. They don't use our language. They don't communicate like us. They don't look like us. They experimented on us. They separated families. Again, it's not safe. So when people talk about stigma, when they talk about Black people don't want to go to therapy, no, Black people don't want to go to your therapy. They don't want to deal with things the way you deal with it. They want someone who looks like them, who speaks their language, who understands them, and can connect to them and isn't like judging or pathologizing every little thing. I remember being in grad school and they would talk about like people, like people getting happy in church or getting the spirit or like talking about it from like a pathologizing way. I'm like, what? Or like people like, oh, some people might see the dead. And I'm like, well, I know people in my family. That doesn't mean they're crazy, but you have to think about what are the cultural aspects and how do we acknowledge those things, embrace them. But because it was different from them, they diagnosed it. So we can't talk about therapy without acknowledging all of this. And I think it, heavily lends into that whole decolonizing therapy. I will tell you, in the pandemic, Black people have been seeking therapy. And if you ask any Black provider, everybody that I used to refer to, like, oh, can you take this person? They really need a therapist. It's like, girl, I'm full. Black people are seeking providers who look like them, who speak their language, who understand them. So yes, you're right. We do pass down the trauma because our journey in the United States has been based on trauma. We pass down the fears because part of the fears is I need you to understand how this isn't safe so that you can, again, survive. I'll wrap up, y'all, but I'll be like, but I'll use an example. My daughter goes to an independent school, so they're a little different. And it's a little different than how I grew up. And it was interesting watching them because it's like, these white people have freedom. You just let your kid play in the park. You ain't on your kid. You not holding their hand. Y'all just doing play dates and sending your kid to somebody's house. It is so different. It is so different. And it's like part of that fear in Black families, you stay close to me because if something happens, I need to be able to wrap you up. And I hate to do this, but I be saying it to my daughter, like, you don't want to go out there. People might do something. I can't get you. That's a part of the fear. But it's also a part of how we've survived and how we've had to adapt here. And I like the whole framework that is also going around where if we could pass down this generational trauma, what about that love? Because when you think about Black communities, you think about family. I know my family is in Virginia. And it's like Sunday dinners, it's eating together, it's showing up for each other, it's loving each other. We might argue today, but I'm gonna help you tomorrow. So there is strength in our community. And those are the things we need to lean into as we think about therapy, our mental health, and all of the things. And lastly, I'll just say part of how we shift the stigma is by us talking about it. So the more Black people hear Black people talking about therapy, the more Black people say things in casual conversation, oh, my therapist said da 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 da, or I'm working on this, or I learned this, then people start to look. And I've had clients who've said, I struggled because people will sometimes struggle with saying, what are your needs? What do you want? I don't know, because I've never had the opportunity to say these were my needs. And so a client shared with me by her exploring and identifying her needs, her mom asked her one day, how did you learn that? So now she's helping her mom. That's the change right there. So that's my little speech for today. Thank you for your support, Denisha.
Oh, you're very welcome. Thank you.
Yes. I'm sure everybody's over here like, yes, like you took the words. First of all, like, oh my God, that was literally just flawless. Like everything you could have said right, you said right. I literally have no words. This mic drop after that. Like, oh my God, thank you so much. We needed that. Everybody needed it. So thank you for that. Were there any other, I don't even want to ask more questions. Does anyone else have a question after that?
I just would like to say that I think she asked for the moderators to speak too, and I'm sitting here like, I can't go after Doc. Like, no. No.
Yes, I'm passionate about Black people, y'all.
And we are here for it, and we love you for it.
Yes, that was so bomb. I literally have nothing else. Okay. So, I mean, does anyone have any other questions? Anything else that you would like to touch base on regarding, just self-care, self-love? Anything? No? Okay. Well, if we don't have any more questions, Brianna, did you want to go ahead and announce the winner? Okay.
Yes, yes, yes. Again, thank you everyone for making a space and a time to come out and to care for yourselves tonight. Those that participated in the self-care challenge on Instagram, thank you, thank you, thank you. And without further ado, let's give it up for Dr. Sherry Perry and Mr. Montreal Shackleford. They are the winners of the self-care challenge. You all will be receiving a self-care package from Black Mental Wellness, and I will post the email in the chat so you all can email your details and Dr. Kamek will receive that. Again, thank you. I hope you all enjoyed yourselves. I enjoyed y'all, and this will not be the last. Thank you.
Yes, please, because I'm gonna tell my friends to come and
Yes.
they will love it. So thank y'all for doing this and just giving us more to thrive. I appreciate it. So thank you.
And can I just give a shameless plug for Black Mental Wellness? They have a conference coming up, I believe in November. So I would just encourage everyone to attend. I attended last year and it was absolutely amazing. I've never seen anything be pulled off the way they did from a virtual standpoint. And it was the bomb. So I would just invite everyone who is not affiliated with Black Mental Wellness to sign up for the conference.
You better listen. I didn't know the conference. You are on it today. Yes. I will add, we do want the conference to feel more interactive. So the same way that we had these discussions today, it's going to be more like this. So it won't just be like a panel where people ask questions, but it will be engagement from the audience. We're going to have healing circles related to race, creativity, one for men, one for women, I think. And so it's going to be a very interactive experience. We want people to leave there feeling like, here are the tools that I can use in my life. So thank you for that reminder. I'm going to do better. But thank you all so much. This was so good. I really enjoyed the engagement and all the questions from our panelists, from our moderators, from the audience. It's been great to have you all here. I'll send out an email with the link to the session. And I think Brianna pulled together some resources, so maybe we can add some of the therapy stuff to that too. Okay. All right. Good night.
Good night, everyone. Bye.
Thank you, everybody.